Hi, Besame. How are you today?
Hey, Daphne. I'm great. How about yourself?
Besame, it has been a stressful, well, I could say 2 years, um, but definitely prepping for this podcast, I had an opportunity to learn a lot about stress, personally and professionally.
I, you know what? This is something that I know this is our 10-minute health snack. And so we'll keep it to 10 minutes, but it's something that I would love for us to revisit again because I think it's so important, especially I don't even want to say we're coming out of the pandemic because it's always going to be ongoing, but really, I've
Mhm.
had very stressful weeks as we fast approach, people going back to the office and having the really the normal office work weeks. It's like let's try and catch up for whatever we didn't miss, and so it's definitely put so much more pressure and stress than we had before. And I feel like it's just I feel like that's kind of the norm now, and that I'm not alone, and we're not alone.
No, no. I mean, we are in a stress pandemic. In prepping for this podcast, I read an article that was written back in 2016 that dubbed stress the health epidemic of the 21st century. And this
Crazy.
was by the World Health Organization. And
Wow.
that, at the time, was estimated that it would cost American businesses up to or exceeding $300 billion a year. And that was pre COVID. And so, if you think now about just the general level of worry, unhappiness, and stress in the world as a result of the pandemic and everything else going on, that, those numbers from 2016 have probably increased non-linearly. And, and the fact that stress is part of our new normal, that we just think, well, this is the way it is, that's wrong. And that's not where we want to be. And that's not what perfectly planted is really meant to espouse, because we know that stress contributes to not only our mental health challenges, but our physical health challenges. And it can worsen multiple chronic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure as
Yeah.
hypertension. All of these things can, if they already exist, can be made worse by being under chronic stress.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I also want to acknowledge that not all stress is bad and there's good stress. From prepping for a road race, there's a little bit of stress there that's
Oh,
good,
sure.
or,
Yeah.
getting ready to move, that's probably a little bit of good stress. But do you have any tips for people listening or watching on how you reduce stress?
So I do. I have several techniques. And Daphne, I've mentioned this before. You have been on this health and wellness journey with me and have given me so many little nuggets of information that I've used. So there's several techniques that I use. First and foremost is exercise. So I start my day with physical activity, and sometimes it's not always the same. And that's the key, to keep switching it up so that it doesn't seem redundant. And so it also seems like, you want to try something new, or maybe you want to do a workout or an exercise technique that you have seen on, a social media or something that you wanted to try out. So always keeping it different and new and fresh, but definitely getting that physical
Mhm.
exercise and physical activity to just get your day going, and it is a stress reliever for me, especially running. The other thing is, I have different relaxation techniques. I probably should have more. And so, but one was one that you taught me, and it was feet up against the wall. So every night I do that for about 3 to 5 minutes. I just have my feet up against the wall, and I just take deep breaths and I relax. And it's something that I do before I go to bed, and so that I'm ready to really, just wind down and be done with the day and be grateful. Think of grateful things, think of things, accomplishments that I've done. And that's my time for just not thinking about what I have to do, but thinking about what I've already done and
Mhm.
my accomplishments. And so
Mhm.
sometimes the list is longer than other days. Sometimes it's very short. Maybe it's one thing, and that was I brushed my teeth, and that's okay. That is okay. Another one is when I feel as though we can be workaholics,
Yeah.
and oftentimes overload our calendars. And a lot of times with that is, just how am I going to get anything done? So some people have used a method called time chunking. I do a little rendition of that. So it's basically time chunking is taking big chunks of your day to accomplish tasks and things that you need to get done. I basically first list out all of my meetings for the day, for my work day, and then think of what I need to do. And then outside of work, as a mom of three and just having my own life, I write down what other things I need to get done and then fit them in throughout the day. And so those are, doing that keeps me on track and doesn't let me just, sit there staring at the computer screen or staring at, whatever, a blank page, to thinking, I have a period of time to get something done. Let's go get it done. So it adds a little bit of productivity. But I know we've talked about blue zones in the past, and there are some blue zone tips for reducing stress. And they're kind of aligned with what I just mentioned. So one of them is to go outside for at least 15 minutes a day to get sunlight. And I mean, we talk about vitamin D being good for you, but also just move outside, get outside, be outside, walk around. You don't have to do anything that's, crazy busy or really high intensity or anything, but get outside for at least 15 minutes, breathe the fresh air, soak in some sunshine. If it's raining, I don't care. Breathe the dewy air. It's just really important to get outside. The other is the socialization aspect. So we oftentimes sit and we are just completely, and it's like debit, credit. It's like, no, let's have some type of social interaction with people outside of being behind a computer screen. One way or another, like talk to your neighbor, talk to a friend. It could be over the phone. It doesn't actually have to be physically, but definitely have that socialization aspect. And then there are a few others, and I know we talked about this with Laura, and it's gardening. So something about putting your hands in the soil and gardening. Now, I'm not a big gardener. I'm going to be honest. I don't really like the dirt under my fingernails, so wear gloves. But feel the dirt in the ground. Like something about that is stress reducing in it, whether it's the energy from the earth, like Laura Hale said from our previous episode, or if it's just the fact that you are not behind a computer screen or a phone screen or anything like that, that you're actually doing something outside. It is very therapeutic. And also, I think we don't want to not mention, the importance of good nutrition. So nutrition, hydration, really taking care of your body so that it's super easy for us. I know that during consulting years, you're airport to airport to airport to meetings to hotel, and all you want to do is go to, get the burger and the fries. It's like, no, like let's be mindful of our body and get something healthy because it'll only make you feel better. And then it's to really find some laughter, find some humor, find some joy in your days, because it's so important for us to do that as opposed to harp on the negative. So there are several more. I encourage everybody. I know we've talked about blue zones in previous episodes, but absolutely check them out. Even if you Google, how to stress less with blue zones, definitely check that out. It's really great tips, I thought. So anyway, I would love to hear some of your quick tips, Daphne.
That's me. I think you've captured the majority of them. And we will definitely put a link to all of these resources in the show notes and in our blog posts. But what you shared, I think you can chunk into 4 pillars. And they're similar to what Dr. Rangan Chatterjee has outlined in his book, which is called The Stress Solution. And he puts it into purpose. So knowing your purpose and understanding a lot of about what motivates you, your relationships. So those calls, those connections that, are probably more valuable than we ever think.
Yeah.
Body and then mind. And the two are so interrelated that you can't separate them.
Yeah.
But, I think the most important thing to emphasize, if we can leave one thing for people to leave with today, is that if you need help, don't hesitate to discuss it with your primary care provider or other healthcare practitioner, because there are resources available to you. And if you need to speak with a mental health provider virtually or in person, we would encourage you to do so, because managing stress it can be a challenge.
It can be.
And sometimes we all need a little helping hand.
Yeah.
I also want to emphasize that, what we talk about on these podcasts are not meant to be a replacement for medical recommendations. And I also want to share that, we appreciate your comments and your feedback. We're not necessarily solving all these problems with these 10-minute seedlings, but we're talking about the things that we all think about, that are all bothering us, that we're all trying to manage. And so a Sunday seedling conversation is really meant to plant that seed in your mind. And then if there are other things that we can maybe dig into the soil more deeply on an upcoming podcast, we're happy to do that.
I love that, Daphne.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are at time. Can you believe it? Our 10-minute
No.
health snack is over for Stress Less. That may have stressed me out a little bit. I'm just kidding. It didn't, but it actually leaves for more for us to discuss. I really think that this is a topic that's super important. Our next Sunday seedling is around sleep more. So a part of stress also is, are you getting enough sleep? And so you'll notice that each of our Sunday seedlings are very interconnected in various ways. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about, how we could sleep more, some techniques that Daphne and I use, and also, any tips that may help. And we also encourage you to give us some of your tips that may have worked for you and comment. Again, you can reach us on our blog, perfectlyplanted22.com. That's perfectlyplanted22.com. And also social media, we're Perfectly Planted on Facebook, and then on Instagram, we're at It's Perfectly Planted. So we absolutely love you all tuning in with us and hanging with us, and we really look forward to our next Sunday seedling.